Hello and welcome to today's webinar, which is an introduction to T-Splines 3 for Rhino, which we released last week. My name is Matt Sederberg. I'm a co-founder and CEO of T-Splines Inc. And I'm joined on the webinar today by Kyle Houchens, who is a T-Splines trainer and the owner of the Outside Digital Art and Design Consultancy, where he uses T-Splines daily in his own design work. During today's webinar, I'll introduce the new T-Splines 3 product, and then Kyle will give a demo of the new features. So to start off, many of you are probably familiar with our company, but to formally introduce us, T-Splines simplifies organic CAD modeling in Rhino and SolidWorks, making it easier, faster, and more fun. T-Splines gives a high-quality human feel to your designs, which nicely complements the exact engineering details that can be added with other software. And this is the third major release of our Rhino plugin. The new features in T-Splines 3 for Rhino are focused on speed enhancements and optimizations to help you more quickly create and edit organic models suitable for manufacturing. So T-Splines 3 for Rhino will help you create smooth curvature continuous forms. In other software programs, it can take significant time before you can build up surfaces to achieve a curvature continuous shape. With T-Splines, smoothness comes across the model by default because large portions of the model can be a single unified surface. This can be useful in a few situations. When you're modeling something like this chair, this smoothness and form is critical. However, smoothness is not always the only consideration when you're modeling something. In the example of this airplane, the wings and the tail need to be very accurate representations of airfoils, but the rest of the surfaces, like fuselages and other secondary structures, need to be very smooth and fair. Skye Greenewalt, who designed this entire Formula One Reno racer with T-Splines, said that iterating on his design with this T-Splines model takes 75% less time than with NURBS. And if you'd like to hear more details on this process, you can attend a webinar that Skye is putting on with us about advanced modeling with T-Splines next week, and we'll send you a link for that. Second, with T-Splines 3 for Rhino, you can win more business with faster iterations. Most designs, especially freeform designs, are not perfect after the first try. T-Splines lets you make lots of fast iterations, be more responsive to your clients, and win more business. We offer premium modeling services at T-Splines Inc., and we just completed a job similar in complexity to this model that Jeff Retton made with T-Splines. And with our job, late last weekend, the client wanted substantial changes made to the project, and with NURBS, the only alternative likely would have been to start over from scratch, but with T-Splines, we were able to push and pull on the existing model to complete the project on time yesterday. Third, T-Splines makes your work more intuitive and fun. This is a comment that we often get, especially from jewelers, and that you can work with your T-Spline surfaces as though they were modeling clay. With a natural and fun interface, changing the shape of the surfaces is something you can do at will, and they'll never tear apart. And I think that Kevin Furtenbaugh is actually on this webinar today, and this is just one of a number of great jewelry pieces that he has made with T-Splines. Finally, with T-Splines, you can design while you model. Traditionally, designing in Rhino has meant laying out curves to represent the critical shape of your model, creating surfaces from the curves, blending those surfaces together, and then inevitably realizing that you'd like to tweak something. So you go back to the curves, make some changes, build up the surfaces again, make sure your blends still work with the new surfaces, and then realize that you're closer, but you still want to make some tweaks. So you go back to the curves and continue like that. With T-Splines for Rhino, you can still start by laying out curves and making a surface. However, rather than returning back to the beginning of the process just to make tweaks, you can continue forward and explore design iterations just by pushing and pulling on the surface. This is a revolutionary way to model, and it's very effective, especially for organic forms. So with kind of those guidelines, these are the new features that we've created for T-Splines 3, and Kyle will take a closer look at these during the webinar. So I'll just point out that probably the three biggest improvements that we've made is a pipe command that gives you a very powerful way of starting and making surfaces and editing them, a match command which is very robust and helps you match up the T-spline to other NURBs or other geometry in the scene, and then significantly improved speed. So with that, let me turn the time over to Kyle, but first of all, just a note about how this webinar will work. We really like our webinars to be interactive. We want you to get maximum value for actually taking the time to watch this live instead of just watching a video. So please type in questions throughout the webinar in the box in the GoToWebinar panel on your screen, and we have a support team here that will be typing back answers during the webinar, and we'll also have some audible Q&A with the presenter at the end. So let me just, before I turn the time over to Kyle, let me just run a poll so we can get a better understanding of who's here at the webinar. And we're just curious, have you used T-Splines for Rhino? And if you can just mark in on the poll if you've used T-Splines version 2, if that's the latest version, if you've used T-Splines version 3, or if you've not yet used T-Splines. That will help us as we continue on with the demo to understand at what level the participants are at. So we'll leave this open just for another second or so and go ahead and close this. So I'll go ahead and share the results with everyone. So it looks like the majority of people here have not yet used T-Splines for Rhino, and so other numbers have used version 2 and version 3. So that's great. We're excited to introduce the software to you today. And this webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a link to the recording in a couple of days. So with that, let me turn the time over to Kyle.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Matt, you seen my screen?
Yep, you're live.
Great. Everybody can hear me and all that great stuff. Fantastic. Well, again, just to reiterate what Matt said, it's kind of an exciting time for all the T-Splines peeps here with version 3 coming out. I've seen it grow and change a lot as a user, and you know, it's just been a real pleasure to work with Matt and his team to watch this program develop into what it is right now. So let's jump in a little bit and talk about what's new and what's cool and why you should be using this. The first thing I want to talk about is speed, and there's been a lot of improvements in the underlying code to make T-Splines considerably faster, and the way that they did that is through some options in how you interface and how you use T-Splines, and the way we'll access that is to go into the T-Splines options, and you'll notice that there's 3 new modes here. There's compatible, fast, and fastest. And basically what's happening in the fast and fastest modes is they're dramatically reducing the amount of on-the-fly smoothing that's happening over star points. And that allows T-Splines to work in kind of a lighter, faster, leaner, meaner version, which allows a much more instantaneous response as to your user input here. So right now we're set in fastest mode, and if you look, I can show you the difference in the display. If I grab a face of this golf club, you'll notice that I can yank it around, and it moves fairly quickly. And I don't know if this is showing up well over the webinar, whether or not there's a lag here. But if you notice, basically, it's updating in real time, and I can very quickly go through. I can even extrude this, and this happens. You know, that happens in real time fairly quickly too. So if we go to and the kind of the mode in this that you'll see, if we were to throw a zebra on this in fastest, you notice that at the star point here, there's some discontinuity, and so what's happening is you're giving up a little bit of display fidelity in order to pick up a considerable amount of input speed when you're modeling. And so this is really useful when you're roughing something out or when you're trying to get a shape put together. The interface and the input happens in a much more kind of direct manner. There's a lot less clicking and waiting for stuff to go on. Now, if we change this to fast, we're gonna we're going to smooth the star point a little bit. You can see there's actually a pretty significant improvement in the star point smoothing here, but we're still getting a good response. Now, it's not quite as fast as it was before. I can't flip it back and forth kind of in real time, but it's not distracting, and it's not something that, you know, starts getting frustrating while you're trying to extrude or add edges or something like that. Now, the other thing that these two modes do is you do lose the compatibility with some of the Rhino commands that you would be familiar with. And in order to enable that again, there's a compatible mode here, and when we turn this on, you're going to get the full star smoothing. If we zebra this, you're going to get full star smoothing. You're going to get the compatibility with all the Rhino commands, set points, and anything that would basically that you would access through the Rhino command window or any of the Rhino commands that you use on T-Spline stuff. This compatible mode allows you to access all of that stuff. But there is a little bit of a performance hit, and if you notice, it is, you know, there is some lag here. So this is pretty much where we were before. With the new code, with the fast and faster modes, that speeds it up considerably. I kind of almost always work in fastest mode because I have the patience of a fruit fly, but and I just know that I'm going to get a little bit of artifacting at the star points here. But since you know that's just a display issue, all you have to do is change the compatible mode, and that goes away. That doesn't really bother me much. So before you do your conversion to NURB, before you do, you know, anything like that, you would want to go into compatible mode, then do your conversion. You're going to get the full smoothing and the full effect of all of the T-Splines goodness. So the next thing I want to show you is there's a new display mode that we've thrown in here, and I'm going to go with one that I haven't messed up here. But if you right-click on your perspective window tab up here, you'll notice that there's a new display called TS Shiny. And if you load that, you'll notice that it comes in with kind of an oxpecker-like environment map. It's just a very simple kind of horizon line kind of setup. And it's really nice because it's a very simple, flat horizon line that allows you to track highlights really well. And you can change the options for it just like you would in any other viewport mode. If you go to the options here, go to the Appearance tab under the Advanced Settings and go to TS Shiny, you can do things like turn on or off shadows, change the default lighting scheme, the edge settings, and all that kind of stuff. Anything that you would be able to do for a typical display mode, we've just added that in there and then loaded this custom environment map so that you get this really gorgeous kind of very shiny, soft chrome display that allows you to track highlights really well and allow you to really kind of enjoy the beauty of these organic shapes that T-Splines is so good at creating. So the next thing I want to show you is selection sets. And selection sets are really cool, especially if you're doing a lot of things that have to iterate. And what that allows you to do, what happens is if I go up here and I go under Selection and I go to Selection Sets, it's going to load an extra palette down here. And this is a really simple interface to use. And basically, like, let's say, for instance, I had a client who couldn't make up their mind and was changing, you know, this setting on this pendant. They wanted it here, they wanted it here, they wanted it here, they wanted it here. They can't make up their mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick these edges and say I'll pick those 4. And I'm just going to hit the record button up here, and I'm going to change the name of this to edges 1, and then I'm going to deselect. And I can go on and model. I can do anything I want over here and mess with this. And all that kind of stuff. And if I want to go back to those edges, all I have to do is hit the play button. Those edges light up again. I can modify it, send it to the client for review. If they change it again, all I have to do is pick them again, move them back to where they were originally, because that's kind of how this always goes, right? And it also works for points. I can pick a bunch of points here. I can pick a bunch of points here. Hit the record button, change the name to points. And if I deselect, all I have to do to reselect them is hit the play button there, and it'll replay that selection set. So this is a really cool feature. If you're doing anything that requires lots of iteration or lots of review with somebody or something like that, I would see that this would have a really good application for the jewelry guys, because you could essentially come up with a single ring shank or a single pendant basis or something like that. Make a bunch of selection sets on where the key features that you would be modifying would be. Save that out as a template file, and then the next time you have to bring one in, you bring it in, pick the points that are already there, modify it, save it off, open it up again, modify it, save it off, and you can do a bunch of iterations in a very short amount of time. The other thing that's really helpful for is if you're doing any type of character modeling, picking the main features that would make up an expression, an eyebrow or a lip or a cheek or something like that, would allow you to get in and modify that in kind of very simple iterative fashion. So,
yeah, Kyle, I just a couple days ago I saw someone modeling a soccer ball with T-Splines using the selection sets, and that's, yeah, anytime you're tweaking sections of the model a lot, it's a big time saver.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing, and especially if I'm doing a ride-on model for a client right now, and there's some very subtle highlight changes, things that are kind of going on. So what I did is I'm reviewing this with the client over Skype, and I have the main feature kind of areas set up as selection sets, and then that way if they say, well, the headlights need to go up or the bumper needs to go down, I can just click through there and pick that without having to go, digging around through the model to try and make stuff. It makes me look like much more talented than I actually am. So
you're making those tweaks live over Skype?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great, and it saves hours of sending out screenshots and waiting for overlays and stuff like that. So Pasco's doing the same thing. He's working on a project right now over Skype. It's brilliant. So
awesome. Good. I always tell people they can do live iterations with the client in front of them with T-Splines, and I'm never sure who actually does that. So that's great. It's great that it's working out.
It's really cool, and it takes like a 2 or 3 day turnaround on something where you are making a model and sending out screenshots and emailing them and waiting for them to overlay them and then get them back and then make the tweaks to a little more here, a little more there, a little more here, a little more there, and everybody's happy, and then off you go to the next thing. So it's like take something that's usually a 24-hour or even a 36 or 48-hour turnaround, and it's something that you can handle in about 15 minutes, and off you go. So and when you're working as a consultant, it's like time is money. So the faster you can get that stuff done, the faster you can get on to other projects and stuff like that. So it's really an awesome feature. The next thing is Symmetry has been completely rewritten, and it's kind of the coolest game in town as far as Symmetry is concerned. I don't know anybody else who's doing Symmetry like this. And basically what it allows you to do is a couple of things. One, you can take an object, and I'm gonna intentionally desymmetric this, and force it to be symmetrical as long as the topology matches. I can't have 15 surfaces over here and 3 over here and force it to go that way. I'd have to delete, mirror, and then or delete half the model and then apply symmetry to the half of the model. But if I've got something built already and the topology matches, I can pick the object, I can select axial symmetry, and I can actually discover this symmetry by picking an edge that lies on the the plane of symmetry. And you'll notice that by discovering using an edge, it picked this side that I had tweaked, and as opposed to maybe the side that I did want here. So I'm going to undo that and actually do this again, and I'm going to discover it, but I'm going to use faces. And I'm going to pick this as my root face, and this is my symmetric face, and that allows me to then pick which side of the symmetry I actually want to have the model go to. So you know, if I undo that again, if I want to keep this side, I go to symmetry again. I say axial. I say discover, use faces. I'm going to pick this as the root, and this is the symmetric, and you'll notice that it forced to the other side. So it allows you to pick which side of this you want to use it. If it doesn't really matter which side it picks, then you can just discover it off an edge. But so that's really cool, and once this is activated, obviously you can come in here and you know, pick any of this stuff and move it around, and it works symmetrically. You can even it even works if you're extruding stuff. So if I put an extrusion in here, you'll notice that it extrudes it symmetrically across based on that once it's active. To get rid of it, all you do is right-click on this, pick this, and right-click again to accept, and now symmetry's gone, and I can modify this without having an update. So that's kind of the axial. The radial symmetry, we can also discover radial symmetry, which is really cool. I don't know how they did this, but it's very cool. We're going to make this radial, and we're going to discover, and I'm going to select a root face and then a symmetric face, and you'll notice that it has gone in and thrown in symmetric edge lines here, which allow me to then modify the model with radial symmetry. And you'll notice that since I'm working in fast mode, this is a really snappy display. I can obviously extrude here and add more to this by alt-dragging on a face and make some really cool stuff really quickly using symmetry.
Kyle, I know this isn't in your script.
It also works.
Kyle, I know this isn't in your script, but could you, after you're done with Symmetry, could you show how you convert this to NURBS and just and why you might do that? Just, I know there's some people on the webinar today that are brand new to T-Splines, and the ability to go to NURBS is maybe something they haven't seen.
Sure, absolutely. So Symmetry also works with on the object level, and let me take Symmetry off of this piece, and we'll go back and put Symmetry on, and instead of discovering the symmetry within this, we can do radial symmetry, and I'm going to set my pivot at 0, and I can just swing out symmetrical objects. I've got 4 segments up here. I can change this to 10 and make a whole bunch of stuff like this. And again, as with the other stuff, once I pick a face here, if I modify this, that's obviously going to be reflected in all the copies that go around there. So jewelry guys, I hope you're feeling me here. This is a really, really cool opportunity to do incredible amounts of detail, you know, super, super quickly. So going back to what Matt had talked to you about before, as far as converting something to NURBS, let me go back to this little pendant here. And this is a really difficult, really complicated process, so I want everybody to pay attention. It requires the utmost skill of going to the menu and saying convert to Rhino object. I hope everybody caught that. So let me shut off the some of the ISO curves here, and you can see this. So now if I pick this, you'll notice that up in my heads-up display it's saying that it's a full-blown poly surface. This is watertight. I can run an edge display on it. You'll see that it's got no naked edges, no non-manifold edges. So that's good to go to Pro E. That's good to go to SolidWorks. That's good to go to an RP machine. That's good to go to a wax printer. Whatever you wanted to do, that's it. So I hope you followed that really complicated multi-step process. It's T-Splines, convert to Rhino object. That's all you have to do.
And then could you just maybe cut the hole, cut a circle hole out of that, Kyle, or something? I'm sorry, I'm hijacking your script.
Oh, that's quite all right. Here, we'll... Circle holes are for chickens. Let's try this. We'll wire cut this. And you notice that that's good, not only on that piece, but the piece that we cut off of it. So you can fillet this, you can blend it, you can do whatever you want to do, because it's just a standard Rhino poly surface at this point.
So that's just one of the ways that the T-splines can be combined with NURBS to get the freeform parts of a model with some exact parts. And it looks like this next thing you're going to show is another way of combining the freeform organic shape of a T-spline with something exact as well.
Yep. The next thing I want to show is the match command. And match was the command that used to give me a stressed stomach ache every time I teach a class, because it was one of those things that it would work about every third time. It's been completely rewritten, and it is absolutely positively awesome now. And it allows you to match not only the edge of a T-splines object to a curve, but the center of a T-splines object to a curve, and then the edge of a T-splines object, or the center of a T-splines object to a NURBS object. So what I've got here is, this is a surface, obviously this is a curve, this is a curve, and this is a T-splines branching Y pipe here. So the first thing I want to do is use the match command. I'm going to pick it. It's going to say select a T-splines border loop to change. I'm going to pick this. I'm going to right click it. It's going to say select edges or curves to match to. I'm going to pick that. And it's going to give me a little display of how the match is going to function. And if I look at my alignment here, you'll notice that it's a bit twisted. And that was a real problem with the old match command, because if you didn't pick it really, really carefully, you could get this crazy tornado surface. But with the rewrite, they've added some tools, so I can actually go in and modify the start point and just pick it from here and go to here. I got my snaps on, and you'll notice that that straightens out. If you use the Rhino Sweep 2 command and notice that it's got the add slash feature in there, that's very similar kind of function there. So you can straighten out how the ISO curves are going to line up. Right click to accept. And I'm going to turn refinement on to allow it to iterate to file tolerance, and you'll notice that it very quickly takes that T-spline and smacks it straight to the curve. So that's cool, but it gets even better. So let's go with a mid-surface match. I'm going to pick this edge loop. Come on. Try this again.
You just need to click the mid-surface option, Kyle, in the command line.
That's why. Alrighty. So I picked a mid-surface edge, and then I'm going to pick that curve to match it to. And notice they're not even lined up. They're not even like planar or anything. It's just kind of thrown arbitrarily in space. It's not really even centered on there, and it's a very arbitrary curve. And I'm going to say OK. I'm going to check my alignment, and in this case the alignment looks really good, nice and straight, no twisting. I'm going to go ahead and use refinement again. I'm going to let it refine 20 times and to go within a 0.001 tolerance. Right click to accept. Notice up here that it's iterating, and it found within 7 iterations and some subdivision added into the surface that it has kind of blow molded that pipe to match that curve within tolerance. And if we shut off the ISO curves, you can see that it did a really spectacular job of doing that. And then the last thing that we're going to do is match it to a surface. So I'm going to take this border edge. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to pick this border edge, check my alignment. It looks good. And I'm going to use we'll go ahead and use a G2 continuity. I'm going to let it refine. It's going to go ahead and go through that and matches the T-splines to the NURBS object within file tolerance. So the cool thing about this is this stays a T-spline. If I pick this, you'll notice that it's still a T-spline surface. It hasn't modified my curve. Notice my curve is still good here. And it hasn't modified my surface, but yet I've got my match going on and everything looks really good in here. So this is a way that if you're working in kind of a mixed media environment where you say you've got an engineering buck that you need to put a sculptural piece on top of, this is a way that you can take your T-splines object and you can force it to kind of play nice with any NURBS objects that are in the scene and not have to, you know, do anything crazy. The other thing that you don't have to do is convert this to NURBS. You can leave it T-splines. All the editing capabilities are still available here. I can obviously modify this and still do whatever I need to do to it because it's still a T-splines object. So for client reviews and things like that, obviously you want to stay T-splines as long as you can for the benefits of being able to modify things. But it allows you to stay, you know, stay working within this NURBS environment as well without in a very seamless manner. So the next thing, and quite honestly, one of my favorite tools in the entire program here, I think that, in my opinion, pipe is the real news here, is the ability to be able to take three curves and use, and it doesn't have to be three curves, it can be anything, run the pipe command, and let's see, it looks like I'm missing a piece here. 1, 2, 3.
It might just be your display. Yeah, I think it's working all right for you.
Think so? Let me just rebuild these curves really quick.
Or even exploding might help as well.
Yeah. All right. Let's pick those. Pick pipe. And check my curve splitting. And it looks like everything's lined up. And then accept that. Why is it not giving me that? You know, I had this problem when I was doing the prep, Matt. Let me try joining them. 3 curves joined into 2. This. Oh, come now. Alrighty, for some reason my demo's not behaving. Let's try this again. So I'm going to run a curve from here to here, and a curve from here to here. Now, pick those and pipe them. Still not behaving. Alrighty. I've got some sort of glitch going on with my
Alright, let's try something harder, Kyle.
Run the 2.
Let's
Try something harder. I think that's
a harder example.
Alright. Alright. Let's get rid of this. Boo. Alright, let's go to the box. Pick that, run pipe. This is going to work now. And we will go ahead and smooth this. And you notice that it's gone and made all of the intersections for you. Now, the cool thing about this is this tool is actually history enabled. So if I pick this object again and run the pipe command again, you'll see that it goes right back to where I was before, and I can do things like, say, change the radius. My radius updates, and I smooth this, and I can change the object. But it gets even better, because I can come in here and pick my original curve. I can move the original curve, and you'll notice that it updates yet again. And I can go even farther than that. I can actually pull this curve completely out of it, and you notice that it updates yet again. So I can even turn on, I can even modify the points in the original curve, and this will update, which we can show here. Let me get rid of this guy. Grab my dinosaur here, grab the head. Just got 6 regular NURBS curves. I can turn on the points and show you kind of the point layout on it. And I can pick that. I can pipe this guy. I'm going to change my output type to smooth, and then right-click to accept, and it goes ahead and makes my dinosaur. And it looks like I need to change my curve dicing a little bit so that I get my rear here. So let's do that. Check my curve splitting. Now you'll notice that I've got 1 on the ends. I've got 1 here. I've got 2 connections here. I've got 4 connections here, but only 2 here. So I'm going to up my tolerance, which is going to allow me to get better connections. There we go. I think that was my problem before on the curves. On the 3 original curves, this is a very large file, and I was working at a teeny tiny tolerance. So now if I accept this, it will add that in there. So the curves don't have to be absolutely positively perfect. They can be a little off, and you can adjust the tolerance that tells the pipe command how far you want it to be off. So if I go back to my original curve and I turn the points on, you'll notice that I can pick this point, I can stretch it out, and the nose is going to update. I can also pick the tail here, and I can change the shape of the tail, and the pipe will update. History-enabled pipe, amazing transitions here. If you'll notice that each one of these is really tracking really nicely. My TS shiny on that, so that's a little easier to see. Try modeling that in NURBS. I dare you.
Kyle, I didn't even know this.
Something really nutty.
Yeah, when you're dragging that curve to make it bigger, you're actually even adding more control points to the T-spline automatically. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Alright, so let's hide the dinosaur here, and we can get into something even crazier like this. And this one requires a little bit of calculation time, so I'm going to just show you what the result is so that you don't have to sit here and watch me watch the clock spin. But this is the result of that. Basically a bunch of curves out in space, and you pipe them, and you get this. And if you look, you'll notice that this is like a NURBS modeling nightmare right here. Y branches going into Y branches, going into Y branches, going into Y branches. And the coolest thing about this one is if we throw a zebra on this. Now, granted, we're working in fastest mode here, so the star points are going to be a little discontinuous. But you'll notice that you're getting you're getting curvature continuous connections all through this thing, which is pretty freaking awesome as far as I'm concerned. And then the last thing I wanted to show is and this will go to NURBS. I mean, this is a single button click again, so if I want this to be a NURBS object, I say convert to Rhino surface, and it's going to chug for a second. Create the meshes, and poof, voila, she is NURBS. That'll go to Pro Engineer. You can give it to your engineer and tell him you want him to shell it. So the last thing I wanted to show you is basically, and we'll go up here and use this golf club again, is basically kind of round tripping this thing from actually I'll use the one that I didn't screw up. We'll take this golf club head and export it using the new TSM file format. And I'm just going to throw this on the desktop up here. And the cool thing about this is you can export this and open it in SolidWorks using TS Elements for SolidWorks, which allows you to import and modify T-Splines objects within the SolidWorks Solids environment. So if you're working in a design department where you've got engineers that are doing SolidWorks modeling and designers that are working in Rhino or working in organic, need to do organic stuff, this is basically right where you're going to want to be. So I go find the TSM file, open this up, comes right into SolidWorks. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I exported the wrong thing, but that's actually a cooler part to show. So it comes right into SolidWorks as an imported T-Splines object, and you'll notice if I right-click on this and edit this feature that it gives me my original T-Splines edit points and things like that. I can pick one of these and modify it, and then accept that, and we're right back into SolidWorks environment. So you can go ahead and blow holes through this, or shell it, or do fillets or anything like that that you would want to do within the SolidWorks environment. But you can notice that you can leverage all the power of T-Splines right here within SolidWorks. So the cool thing is you can round trip this. So if this comes in, if you need to make some modifications on this, if you made your modifications and then saved it out again, as long as it had the same file name, you could re-import this and your part would update. The feature tree would all go through and update, and you'd be right back to where you started from. So that's kind of the list of features that I wanted to show for right now. Obviously, if you have any questions, start throwing them out, because we love making sure that you're getting as much value out of these webinars as you can. And thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Give the trial a shot if you haven't tried it. If you are running version 2, I would, for the sole purpose of being able to get the pipe command, I would upgrade to version 3 because it is awesome. And not only that, but you get a whole bunch of other stuff that goes with it. So go ahead and hit us with any questions. If there's anything else we can help you out with, let us know.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Kyle. While we transition into the Q&A, I just wanted to close up by talking about some promotional pricing that we have for T-Splines 3 until June 30th. Then the promotional pricing is to upgrade T-Splines for $199 or to get a full license of T-Splines for Rhino for $599. So again, this is just available on our website until June 30th. So with that, let's take a look at some of the questions coming in. Here's a question from Dan. What can T-Splines do for reverse engineering? And Kyle, maybe you can talk to that because you've had more experience actually doing stuff like that than I have.
Yeah, absolutely. The one of the coolest things about T-Splines is the fact that the data fidelity is really, really, really good. So if you're working in an environment where you're going to RP, whether you're CNCing, whether you're using a stereolith machine or a wax printer or anything like that, the data works great. You just export it as an STL or OBJ file, and it goes right to the additive RP machines, no problem. And if you're going to CNC, convert it to NURBS and export it as an IGES file, and you're good to go. It's going to be watertight. If you're CNCing, you're not going to have to worry about Z dives through the part because there's no gaps. And if you're going to RP, you can just send it to a service bureau and not worry about anything being wrong with the data because the stuff is really good. I've done a lot of parts using T-Splines data and never had a single one have an issue. So I've had junky NURBS data that I've built have problems, but I haven't had any T-Splines. I haven't had any T-Splines stuff.
So Kyle, to focus more on the reverse part of the engineering, have you have you had any experience doing like starting with mesh data or scan data and using T-Splines as part of that process?
Well, using mesh data is a question that we get a lot, and there's a couple of ways to do this. The short answer is, can you take mesh data and use T-Splines? Can you reverse engineer mesh data using T-Splines? The short answer is yes. The long answer is you need some intermediary products to do that. And May 5th, Matt's going to be putting on a webinar, actually with my business partner Kevin Pascoe, who's going to show how to use ZBrush to take a triangulated garbage scan, convert it using ZBrush into a beautifully retopologized quad model, and then run that through T-Splines. So there is a process for doing so. It's not necessarily a tool that's been purpose-built to do it, so it's a little bit like pounding in nails with the back of a hammer. You can do it, but it's something that we're working on improving. And we did do a webinar recently showing the same process, doing reverse engineering a triangulated mesh using 3D Coat. And I believe, Matt, that one is up on the forum. You can check that out and watch that.
Yep.
But there's some other tools that we're working on, kind of on a conceptual level at this point, to try and maybe improve that process. So, like I said, the short answer is yes, it can be done. The long answer is it's probably not the world's easiest way to do it yet, but the tools are available to do it, and if you've got some creativity and some fortitude, it can be done. So. Okay, great. Looking to see if there's any other questions that have come in that we've not answered yet. I think that we've answered back most of them just by typing. So if anyone has any final questions, go ahead and chat in now. And one thing that I'll just point out, if you go to our T-Splines website and have more questions about any of these features or about upgrading, you can just come to tsplines.com and come to our forum. Wow, what a cool car.
That is a great car. Kyle did that one. And go to T-Splines for Rhino documentation. And here we have a bunch of videos just detailing each of these new features. You can also get there just by going to our T-Splines for Rhino landing page, where you can get a free trial and then click on what's new in V3. And here again you'll find a video just outlining all the new features, and then each of these new features with links to those movies. So, okay. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Hope it was useful, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.